Hi there, my name is Noah Short, and I will be talking about how to be an effective manager by using the human relations and human resources approaches to organizational communication. Now, I know that is a very intimidating title and that is really big. So, to bring it down, essentially, we'll be talking about how to be an effective manager by using these different approaches. That is, human relations and human resources, which is essentially knowing your employees and what they need. So, think back and think about a time that you've ever worked for somebody like this. Maybe not this guy in particular, but somebody like this, someone who is always on your case, always just messing with you, always just maybe even taking credit for your work. And it was just a really awful time, right? And or maybe they were even just someone who just didn't manage effectively. There was people who were slacking off and you were busting your butt, whatever it was. Just remember back to this how bad it was, how ineffective that management was. Maybe you felt undervalued. Or maybe this was you. Maybe you were that terrible manager. So, the goal for this is to better inform you about management, to help you become a better manager so that you're not like the guy in the previous slide, and then to be able to apply this to every day. A lot of people think that the concept we're going to talk about, are just for workplace or just for your job, but they really can be applied to your youth group, to you know school, extracurricular activities. These are things that whenever you are leading somebody or people, like this can be applied to that. So there's three aspects to an effective manager. Okay. The first one is balancing results while simultaneously making sure your workers are cared for. The second is respecting yourself as well as respecting those you lead. And the third is helping those you manage reach their true potential. Again, we're going to dive more into this and I'll break down each of these points. So the first one is maintain a focus for results as well as maintaining a focus for those you lead. So there's lots of different ways to do this, but one of the ways that I want to approach is Blake Mouton's managerial grid. So this was developed in 1964 as just a way to expose slash talk about these different management styles. So as you can see on the graph here, we have a high concern and low concern for people on the left, and on the bottom, it's a low concern to high concern for results. Okay. So when we have a high concern for people, but a low concern for results, we have a country club management style. So this is kind of where it's kind of relaxed. You can do whatever you want, and people feel valued and cared for, and maybe there's even perks, but you're not getting any of the produce at. You're not getting the product that you need to be pushed. Okay, there's no results. So we can go opposite, and we can have a high concern for results and a low concern for people. Well, this isn't good either because now you have a highly competitive management style. You have it to where people have to step on each other to get stuff done. You have to where people can really have to climb over each other to try to get stuff done. So then you could try low and low, which then puts you to impoverished management, which then makes it to where you are not getting the results that you need and your people hate working for you. So then we could try middle of the road management. Middle of the road management is the most common management style that people take, and it's one of the easiest. Um, People flourish underneath it. For example, men love managing a middle of the road management style, and they love being managed under that. According to a study done by Dr. Hakan, he found that women are more likely to want to have team management, but they're more likely to manage underneath a middle of the road management. And he also found that age plays a factor. The older a person is, the more likely that they will be more effective underneath a team management style than not. He also found that education plays a factor underneath all of this. So the higher educated you are, the more likely they want and they'll flourish underneath a team management style. So again, this is just a way to kind of break down management styles. Second point, respect those you lead. So the way to do this is there's two different theories you can think about. And these are really just, again, I said management styles last time. These are really just kind of ways to apply this. So Theory X managers believe that work is a pain and that nobody really wants to do it and people need to be forced to do it. And theory Y managers was whenever people will rise to the occasion and they'll have the drive and motivation to take care of stuff. Both these theories were made by Douglas McGregor, who was also a communication theorist. And these are, again, two ways to apply these theories. So, for example, if someone is a little more lazy, lackadaisical, doesn't really have the drive or motivation to get stuff done, they would probably flourish underneath a theory X management style. The reason why I say that is because the theory X is more hands-on. They're what we would call maybe even micromanagers, but that person would flourish, and so they would feel respected, valued underneath that theory X. But then if we put them over onto a theory Y management, they would have too much freedom, too much room to just kind of move about and maybe not be able to be pushed to do the things they need to do. But if someone had the drive and had the motivation to get stuff done and do things that they weren't asked to do, they would flourish under a theory Y because they need that freedom. They would feel restricted underneath a theory X. So knowing who your employees are and how they are characteristically is huge on whether or not the theory X or theory Y will be applicable. And that's just the thing. Both of these are applicable. One's not better than the other. Both of these are effective for a respective person. There's two other theories that I really encourage you to look at, and one of them is William Ochi's Theory Z Manager. I have it linked later on in the slides. It's very interesting. It gives a different perspective about it, as well as the Theory A management style, which has to do with accountability and how it's kind of it pairs a lot well with the team management, with Blake Mouton's managerial grid in the previous slides. So this next point is help those you manage reach their fulfillment. So essentially, everybody's trying to better themselves, we would hope. And so, how do we do this as a manager? So, a good approach from this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And the the actual like government of Iran did a quick overview of this, and they found that people in their culture have higher needs for relational and shelter needs than anything else. And so they've told their companies to do that, and so they've modeled after. That's not everything that kind of falls into place here. So we're just going to go on the general kind of like American's perspective. So we first have physiological or biological needs, such as water and food. And then on top of that, it kind of stacks on each other as we see. We have shelter needs, which would be like safety and security, possibly even job security would be a part of this. And then we have a relation needs. So this is like the need to fit in or belong. A good example of this is if an employee is underneath a producer parish management style, which we talked about in the grid, they might not feel like they have a place to belong because they would be competing with everybody. They don't feel like they have any relations, any connections besides competitors. And so those needs won't be met. And when these needs aren't met, then productivity from that employee goes down. So we move up to esteem needs. So esteem needs are essentially like the respect that we need or the feeling of having self-esteem. And so a good way to see this in play is the theory X, theory Y. If someone has a lot of drive and they have the motivation to get things done, they go out of the way to get things done, but they're being managed underneath a theory X manager, meaning that they're hands-on micromanaging, they might feel disrespected and that they're not as valued as other people. And so in that perception of disrespect, their esteem needs are being met, and then that would mean they lower their productivity because, or even their want or desire to even continue to work for the company or work for you as a manager because their esteem needs are not being met. And when these needs, all these base four needs, are not being met, then they can't ever achieve self actualization. And self actualization is fulfillment. It is feeling like I have purpose, like I'm doing the thing that I've been called to do, been made to do. Like it's my drive, you know? So with not being able to achieve self actualization, your employees will always be dissatisfied. So, how do we help people do that? We help them achieve self actualization by maybe asking them, hey, what would you really like out of this job? Or what are your hopes for this job? Or if a employee comes to you and says, I don't want to be X forever, I feel like I'm being underused, maybe trying to throw them a bone, trying to get them connected in a way that can make them feel like they are more valued and that they have more value so that they can plug in and reach that fulfillment. So we see that culture plays a role, age plays a role in this as well, and so does status and prestige. All these things might even restructure how this is laid out. There might be bigger portions of physiological or shelter or relational, or it might be restructured as in like some are stated over the others. What we do find, again through that study with the Iranian government, is that gender does not play a role. Whether it's man or woman, they all have kind of the same basic needs depending on what really does play a factor are these culture, ethnicity, age, and status. So that wraps up these 3 points. I know it was kind of fast, but hopefully this will help you kind of put into perspective what does it mean to be an effective manager. So through this, just a high speed recap, an effective manager cares for results while simultaneously caring for those they lead. When we put both of those at the same time, we can find a middle of the road management or a team based management, depending on the age and the education of your people. And then a effective manager respects those they lead. This comes down to, are you going to be a theory X or theory Y, or maybe even theory Z or theory A? That management style will reflect how that person needs to be managed, just depending on who they are as a person. And then finally, an effective manager helps those they lead achieve fulfillment. Again, making sure that those needs are met and that they feel fulfilled in what they're doing and not that it's just some sort of, oh, it's just a job, a stepping stone type thing, but it's fulfilling fulfillment so that they can increase productivity through what they do. So that's it. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for liking the video. And that's all.